Hello. So, sometime last year, I made a program which would play the game 10,000. 10,000 is a dice game, and I figured if it's, purely statistics, then I should be able to make a program which will play the game optimally. I haven't touched. Hold on. I would like to interrupt myself here and add a preface. I am not a programmer, so if you see me doing something kind of weird, it's probably because I'm doing it wrong. Okay, carry on. I haven't touched it in a while, but soon my family is getting together to play 10,000, so I want to dust off the program and see how it does against real humans. So like I said, 10,000 is a dice game. You roll the dice, and certain combinations of dice give you certain points. The first person to 10,000 points wins. I don't want to get into the details of the game too much, but the interesting part of the game comes from deciding when to stop rolling. So the more dice you roll, the more points you can earn. But if you ever fail on a dice roll, then you lose all of your points for that turn. So the more you keep rolling, the more likely you are to fail and get 0 points for that turn. The core idea of how my program works is this. First, it assumes it will continue rolling. It looks at the dice and finds every possible legal choice it can make and calculates a score for each. The score is the number of points you currently have, plus the average number of points you will earn if you continue rolling, times the probability of failing if you continue rolling. It finds the optimal choice by choosing the one which has the highest score. Then lastly, it compares that score to the score if you stop rolling and just take all the points you have. Whichever is greater, it makes that choice. Now, before it's ready to face off my family, I need to make a couple changes. First off, the program cheats because I forgot to tell it a rule, so I'm going to put that in. Okay, now that my computer is no longer a cheater, I can continue with the improvements. So, as I was saying earlier, my program makes decisions based upon the average number of points it will get if it keeps rolling, and the average probability of failing if it rolls the remaining dice. And both of those numbers are functions of the number of dice it's rolling. So, for example, if you roll 6 dice, you're probably going to get a lot of points, and you're probably not going to fail. But if you're rolling only 2 dice, you're not going to get very many points, and the probability of you failing is a lot higher. Finding those probabilities is the tricky part, and there's 2 ways to do it. There's a simple way and a complex way. The simple way assumes that the probability means the next roll only. And this is very easy to find out. I will tell it to roll 5 dice, 10,000 times, and find out how many times it fails and find out the average score it gets. And I can do that for 1 to 6 dice. The complicated way takes into account all future rolls, not just the next roll. So when I say average number of points earned if you keep rolling, it doesn't mean like just that next roll. It means that next roll and then any number of rolls the program decides it should keep doing. Likewise, the probability of failure isn't just the probability of failure on that next roll, but the probability of failing on any of the rolls in that turn. This version is more complicated because the probabilities depend on the decisions that the program makes and not just the statistics of rolling dice. In order to find these probabilities, I have to use an iterative process. So I start by plugging in just some random values and probabilities that are, not going to be correct. And I tell the program, play 10,000 games. And it will spit out for me how many times did it fail on 5 dice, how many times did it fail on 4 dice, and how many points did it earn on 5 dice, and so on. Once I have those values, I can re-plug them back into the program and tell it to play another 10,000 games. And then it'll give me new probabilities, and I plug those in, and it plays another 10,000 games. Ideally, it should converge on a set of probabilities that is the most correct. And given the most correct probabilities, it should score the most points. Before even starting this video, I had both of those systems working, both the simple version and the complex version, but I have yet to thoroughly look into them and see which one performs better, so that's what I want to do today. So I've ran this for a while, and the values do appear to be converging, but they're a little sporadic still. If I increase the number of games it plays between each calculation, then it converges much more finely, which is pretty cool because that means that it's doing the thing it's supposed to do. And now it's time to compare the values generated by each method. After telling each version of the program to play 1,000,000 games, the simple version came out on top. It wins on average in 15 turns, while the complicated version wins on average about 15 and a half turns. So they're pretty close, but the simple version performed slightly better. I also decided to mess around with histograms. From my experience just playing the game, 15 turns isn't fast enough to guarantee that the program's going to win every game. So in that case, I decided it's probably better to maximize the number of great games the program plays, rather than maximizing how well it does on average. So with these histograms, I'm looking at how often it wins the game in under 15 turns. I thought that maybe a program which plays more risky would have a lot more worse games, but also a lot more really good games, and maybe that could win more on average. But it turns out that in everything I tried, the original simple program still has the highest average score and the highest number of games that it won before turn 15. I do want to point out, though, that once a risky version of my program won the game in one turn. It played 100,000 games or something, but just the fact that even once it won in one turn, I found pretty crazy. I'm a little disappointed that the safe and simple version of the program performed best. I think it would be cooler if the other ones did, but if that's what's best, that's what I'm going to roll with. So now it's time to finally put it to the test. Okay, these are the final results from the game. And as you can see, we did not win. But we did come in third out of 8, which isn't bad. The winner ended up winning in 14 turns, and the program was on track to win in 17 turns. So it was having a somewhat below average game. It wasn't the blowout win I was hoping for, but I am happy to say that the program is at least at par with humans. There are probably a couple other things I could tweak to get slightly better performance out of it, but honestly, I don't think I'm going to. The program played in a really boring way. The game is fun because you take risks and you roll dice and you might win a bunch of points or you might lose it all, but the program played very conservatively compared to everybody else. So it was not exciting to watch in any way, and it kind of got predictable with the choices it was going to make. So I think I'm going to wrap up this project here. It was pretty fun. In the end, it performed decently. And now if my friends are ever playing dice, I can whip out my phone and be like, yeah, my computer's going to play too. But I probably won't do that.